So I'm Phil VanFossen. I'm the Interim Dean of the College of Education here at Purdue University. This is my 26th year here at Purdue and 36th in the classroom. I feel like I've been here forever, except my friend and colleague who's also here with me in this webinar, Tim Newby, actually has been here longer than I have. Isn't that true?
Yes, I've been here. I'm in my 39th year.
Yeah. Okay. So you trump me by more than a bit. So, but we're both delighted to welcome you here. I want to thank Robin Cunningham and our Director of Academic IT, Bob Evans, for helping to organize this. I see a few familiar faces in the participant list and a couple of folks that are new to me. So I hope that our little overview that we planned here of our online programs inspires you to learn more and maybe to join us in one of those online programs. I will say we're also experimenting a little bit with the Purdue for Life, Purdue Ties networking app. And so if you've joined us using that, we appreciate it. And maybe even giving some feedback on that in the chat, if you found that useful, how you've used it. We're really exploring how we can utilize it to reach out to our alumni and maybe use it as a recruiting tool in the future. So appreciate that. So, and Tim, thanks for being co-host today. I appreciate it.
I'll just follow your lead. So whatever, answer the questions. Been here forever. So whatever.
So we don't want to belabor the point too much, but we did want to talk a little bit about our many ways leading and award-winning online programs here in the college. And so I'm going to start with a little brief history and then ask Tim to kind of extend maybe that history a bit, and then we'll talk about sort of where we are now. And then I'm going to let Tim talk about what makes kind of our online programming, we think, unique relative to some, if not all, the offerings that Purdue has in terms of online. So briefly, the College of Education, actually it was the School of Education back in the early 90s, developed its online chops in a cohort program that trained future superintendents. And we actually had a grant from the communications company Ameritech. Remember that, Tim, the Ameritech classroom? Yeah, and in that classroom, we had set up video conferencing capability so superintendents could attend at remote regional locations like a high school that was equipped for video conferencing, and you remember this, Tim, we sent them a Polycom device, right? That was voice and video over internet protocol. We hooked them up. They would meet in small groups, and then there would be instructors in the Ameritech classroom. And really that was the first serious internet-based online instruction program here at Purdue. So we were kind of there at the beginning. And then in the late 2000s, and this was,
also, I was going
go
to
ahead, Tim. Yeah.
I was just going to say that I think originally that room was run off of distance phone lines. So we were paying for
long distance
money
charges,
to get
right?
Ameritech for those phone lines.
Because it was dial-up modem.
Dial-up modem, so you had to have those. Yeah.
14.4 baud. Sorry, you got two internet nerds here going back and forth. But yeah, that was a long time ago in a land far, far away. Absolutely. But then fast forward a bit to the early mid 2000s, and this is where our the colleges, by now College of Education's online presence, really began to take shape and to develop. And really we were a partner with then Deltac, now Wiley Education, in piloting Purdue's online presence. We were literally, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were literally the first to offer significant master's, at least, programming online in that relationship. Yes?
Yes, that's exactly right. In fact, I see on our list that Maren Motor is here with us, and
I saw that too. That's an old
been here
name.
With us from Wiley, but before that from Deltac.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, the opening days of doing that. Yeah. And I think we started our program in 2011. So
I think that's about right.
Before that, as we set it up.
Mid 2000s, I had the good fortune or not, depending on your perspective, to be serving as department head at that point. So remember that very well. And so that first online presence and that relationship really developed, and we kind of sprouted from there. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Tim, just because you know so much about it, the master's in LDT, and maybe a little bit about how that's evolved and maybe what makes it special relative to some other online programs. Yeah.
Well, the online program in LDT was a natural fit for us because it's learning design and technology. And of course, a part of our area of study of the faculty members there is distance learning, different types of learning, different types of technology that can be used. And so really early on, we were looking at it both as a potential way of reaching new students and doing some of that, but really it was a research interest, and so that we could, as faculty members, start to study that in more detail. And how could you study it without actually having some type of program and dealing with students that were in that program? So we had a lot of inbred just desire to be in that realm. But we kept running into, to distinctively difficult walls to come, and Deltec really helped us at that point. I still remember the meeting when Jim Lehman came in and said, we've been looking at different companies that could actually help us with this, and I didn't even know at that point that there were such, and that was a really good relationship that we developed from that point on to help us with the things that professors don't want to do.
Yeah.
All the administrative extra things that go on within those programs. And so they took that charge, and we then were allowed to create the classes that we wanted and fill the experience that we needed to have. And it was a really good partnership from that.
So, and maybe talk just a little bit more about how what is unique, maybe not completely unique, but what is different from many other programs is that your program was a faculty developed, faculty delivered program. Talk a little bit about how important that was.
Well, I think it was really important from a couple aspects. First of all, is the idea that our faculty had talked about the theory behind distance learning, had studied that, and they were also instructional designers. So we didn't send these courses out to have people develop it for us and come back, and then we put our content in there. We developed those courses. And so we, in some cases, stumbled along, but in other cases, that was where our field was the design of instructional materials. So we designed those courses. So the faculty members had total input on what the courses, not only the content, but what the experiences were going to be like. And we could try some different things. And with the structure, the way that we had it set up, we were pretty much given full reign on how that experience should go. And it really allowed us then to try some different things. Number one, from our first onset, I can remember discussing this early on, the courses that we set up had to be of the student coming out of our online course had to be at the exact same level that our student coming out of our face-to-face courses. And that was a little bit different because they experienced things in a different way. And we were learning how to make sure that happened. And what happened early too, for some of us, is that we had the experience of actually trying some online discussions and stuff. And we found out that actually the online discussions went a lot better and were much more in depth than the face-to-face ones. Because many times in class, the students didn't have time to think about what their response would be. Online, they could think, they could consider, they could take in what their other students had said. So it was more of a cooperative type of answer that they were giving, and they could really go into depth if they wanted to and if they chose to do that. And we absolutely loved it. I can remember a discussion early on where Dr. Peg Erper was sitting in one office and I was sitting in the other, and we were studying the responses from both students at the same time from the same class. And she was just hooting and hollering, "Did you see what this student said? I've never had a student go to that depth." And I would look back and see that, and then we were going back and forth. We were talking synchronously, grading our students who were online at the time, and it was just amazing the depth that they were getting to. And that's what sold us on that we needed to have our own program.
I'm laughing because I'm envisioning, my own daughters who are, in their bedrooms texting each other back and forth as opposed to, they're right next door, but heaven forbid they should actually get together and talk to each other. So, hey, talk a little bit about the because it was faculty developed, faculty delivered, that students got the real sense that they were, and I don't know how to say this any other way, but they were real Purdue students, right? And how did you foster that, and how does that continue to this day in our online programs? And how do we foster kind of an identity that you are Boilermakers,
Yes.
even though you're taking distance coursework? So yeah,
A couple of things. One is that we tried from the very beginning to tell them basically you are. It doesn't say anything different on your graduation certificate, your diploma. It's going to say Purdue University. So we're going to treat you exactly the same way. Just because you're online doesn't mean you're going to get out of assignments, that it's going to be a piece of cake. And some students at first had to adjust to that. But we really, and it's in some cases it's kind of easy, we push the Purdue brand, meaning that this is an exceptional research institution. We do good things here, and you will also. We have high expectations for our students face-to-face, and you are going to be expected to do just as well. And we totally expect it. We told the students that we vet the students very closely, that the applicants, to make sure that they're of high quality, and let them know that we have high quality expectations and that they needed to perform. And they turned around and for the most part, and really did a very good job of performing and doing things.
yeah.
I teach the practicum course. The practicum course is at the end, after you've learned all of these things, now go out and apply it and do it in a business, in a not-for-profit or whatever. If I could just show you some of those projects, you would just be so proud of our students. They are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And you could stack those online students up against any face-to-face students. In fact, I could do many of my master's students right up against our PhD students and say, can you do that? They're fantastic at what they do. And again, it's because they took on that idea that, I really am expected to perform at this height, and I will try as hard as I can. And for the most part, they do an excellent job.
Yeah. I can remember a couple of years in, maybe 3 or 4 years in, and that you even went so far as to host a reception for students who actually came to campus for graduation. They felt so much that they were Purdue Boilermakers that they even traveled to participate in graduation ceremony. So that says a lot about not only your program, but all of our online programs are really a reflection of that commitment to students that we have across both departments in the college. And across all of our license and other program areas. So, kind of fast forward from 2011 to 2022, 11 years later, and we've gone from one program, the Learning Design and Technology program, to now 21 online and hybrid graduate programs. We've got, so Robin Cunningham is on cue, is sharing her screen, and you can see the list here. We've got 2, not just one, but 2 hybrid PhD programs. We have 1 Ed Specialist program in Educational Leadership and Policy Studies. We've got 7 master's programs, and we have a couple, and I think this is really important. We have 5 licensure programs, and that's on the next page. Including things like special education, very high need areas, English language learning. This is one of our programs that has grown tremendously. I remember I was ending my tenure as department head in 2016 when that program began, and they have trained hundreds of teachers across Indiana and across the country in effective ways of engaging students whose first language is not English. Certainly our certificates, the graduate integrated certificate in STEM has got a lot of traction, and given that it's Purdue University and noted, perhaps overly noted as the STEM school, we do a pretty good job here at our college too, but overly noted as a STEM school, really important for us to have that. So we've got just a lot of things going on. We've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 students who are enrolled in, Robin, if you just go back to the one slide. So in across these licensure programs, across the certificate programs, across our graduate programs, it was on the first slide. over 600 students impacted by our online programming. You'll notice here in the graphic something that we really want to celebrate is our position number 22 in terms of best online masters in education. That's across the country, U.S. News and World Report rankings. Tim's program, Learning Design Technology, is number 8. I guess my question is, Tim, how can there be 7 programs that are better than yours? I'm very curious about that. So
I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious about that also. They answered the questions differently. I don't know.
Maybe so. Trust me. I'm not sure you're going to find a better program than we've started in curriculum instruction, one of our departments here, a master's degree that can translate into a number of avenues for practicing teachers. And so this has gotten quite a bit of good traction, and we're at number 14. I mentioned special ed as a high needs area. We're also at number 14. And our leadership program in educational administration, that's at both the building principal level and the superintendent level. Together, those are ranked 20th best. So we're top 20 pretty much across all of our programs. I think given the short timeline that we've been doing this, about a decade, I think that's a real accomplishment, and also talks about the quality of our programming and the commitment of faculty like Tim and our support folks like Robin Cunningham and Bob Evans and a lot of other folks who are behind the scenes as well. So, Robin, do you have the slide about our numbers, our overall numbers? Yeah, that's right. So one of the things I mentioned, 602 students overall, and that doesn't put us in absolute terms at the top for Purdue University, but my background and training is in economics, and in economics we always adjust for inflation, right? We're not looking at absolute numbers, we want to have real numbers. And so I asked Robin to do a little analysis that if we adjust for our size, and that's what she's got here, is that our revenue, for example, in the first table, per tenure track faculty, puts us a very close second to management. And I will say, and I don't know the exact detail, but I know that their price per credit hour is significantly greater than ours. So the fact that adjusting for size, we're still a close second to management says a lot about demand for our programs. If you look at the others, credit hours per instructor, that bottom right table, we're actually the most active once you adjust for size of any college in Purdue University. And then enrollment per instructor, again, we're a close second to management, but it's us, and then everybody else is significantly behind. So again, I think the amount of commitment that we made to our online programs, the quality of our online programs is reflected in that overall demand. Again, adjusting for our size. We are small but mighty when it comes to our online presence there. So I think maybe Tim, you could talk a little bit about one of our really special programs, and that's the first interdisciplinary master's program that that Purdue has offered, and you've been part of that. Do you want to say a little bit about that program?
Yeah, it's an interesting program. We went in, we combined with communication, because they have a very successful online program also for liberal arts. And so we talked closely with Bart Collins, who basically runs that program there. And we said, with learning design, technology, and communication, there's always this crossover. We had students in both programs that were asking about, can I go over and take 1 or 2 classes from communication, and vice versa from the communication side? And so we got together and said, hey, is there a way in which we can create a master's degree that pulls those two together? And so we came up with corporate training and communication. And that is a brand new, really just very at its very beginning as we're going through it and working through all of the kinks with the new program and all those kind of things. But it's promising, and we're really looking forward to developing that further. The grad school is involved with that, and it's really helped us out as far as getting that up and running and seeing how it's going to play out. So we've got our first cohorts going through right now.
I think that is just one more example of the kind of maybe very quiet leadership. Maybe folks don't necessarily see that, but certainly the results indicate that we are leaders across campus. That flexibility to work with others, to be collaborative, to be flexible in terms of offering students the option of doing a program like that, I think is a hallmark of not just our online programs, but I think the college as a whole. It's one of the great things about our faculty, about how collaborative they are and how willing they are to work outside their program area. So
I think one thing also that I could add here too is that we've learned over the last decade or so that things change. It's not just the content that we have to keep up on. We have to keep up on who the learners are and what their mindset is. Early on, with our program, the recruiters and others, they could say, "Here's Purdue, and here's what we've got," and it was one of the only programs out there. So that selection. Now there's a lot of competition, all over. Yeah. So you have to be very mindful of what you're offering and are you reaching your target audience in a way in which that will impact them to do it. And that's something that for many of us faculty members, we don't ever think too much about, but we have to think, and you have to be able to move. And the reason why we would go to something like a program where we combine with other programs like communication, because the field needs that versus just always staying with the same thing. That doesn't work as well.
I've been using a metaphor with our faculty, Tim. I don't know if you were in our faculty meeting 2 Fridays ago, but that metaphor kind of applies to teacher education, but I think it applies here is that, the perception of students is that, teacher education or online education is a commodity, right? That in economics in my area, when you talk about perfect competition, you're always looking at commodities, right? So a gallon of gas is a gallon of gas wherever you purchase it. A bushel of wheat is a bushel of wheat is a bushel of wheat. What I'm encouraging our faculty to do is think of us as not wheat, but quinoa, right? That we are not a commodity equal to all others, but we're unique, we're special. We've got things to offer that are different from other online programs. And I think your work of others in developing those 21 programs, I think is really another example of how we're quinoa to perhaps wheat in that area. So certainly one of the things you mentioned already that differentiates us is the kind of scholarship and faculty presence in terms of scholarship in our online programs. Maybe you could say just a word or two about some of your colleagues' work. Jennifer Richardson, for example, in Communities of Inquiry, the Watsons, Sonny and Bill, in terms of their work on MOOCs. Maybe just a word or two about how that's impacted, improved, our online presence here at in the College of Education at Purdue.
Yeah, I think that's a key, really important area, because some of the ways in which we run our program, an example of that is that some of us have real interest in micro-credentials and the idea of the impact of that, and especially within the online environment. And so we've set up our coursework around certain micro-credentials that they have to do. So not only are they now taking a class, but they have to show you that they've achieved certain competencies. And those competencies, it adds an element that they can now take out and show others. In other words, instead of just showing them their academic record, here's a piece of paper that said I took EDCI 270 or whatever the course is. Now they can say, I have got this micro-credential that shows you. And if you click on that, it shows you exactly what I did and how I did it and my capabilities now, what I'm capable of doing. And so we have individuals, Bill Watson, myself, and others who are very interested in that area. And so we've taken those studies and we now integrate those within the program itself. So the program works. Sunny Watson and her work with Bill on the massive online courses, the massive open online, their MOOCs, and that's Jennifer, again, very well known in the field of community of inquiry, and how that then now plays within our whole way in which we interact with our students and stuff. So it has that Wanju and her work with Wang, with her work with all different kinds of technologies and the added areas there. Adri Kaler and all the work that she's doing also in online and on the blended and online teaching, the new licensure that we've been bringing into the college because of that. and those areas. And Luke
Yeah.
Bennett, who's working with her, I think there's just on and on individuals who have studied certain things, became very well known in their field for that, and now that influence is influencing how we do things to the betterment of it, to the betterment of the online experience that the students receive.
I absolutely agree, and I guess I would maybe just close our brief, kind of case for online leadership with the example from your program. And I'm not sure who coordinates this now, but I know Jen Richardson used to. You actually have a course where students take on projects designing courses for other faculty and other program areas. So implementing the research-based pedagogy that you and your colleagues have discovered into our other online programs. So the quality, research-based quality and faculty-delivered quality sort of percolates down across all of our programs. Who's coordinating that course? Do you know?
That course, I think it's still Jennifer does it.
It's still Jen. Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's
so they serve kind of as interns, if you will, taking on a corporate client or a school client who are the faculty who need a course or need a module in a course designed, that kind of thing. So again, we may not be completely unique in that, but I think we're fairly rare in sort of cycling back our research-based pedagogy in terms of online learning. So, so good. All right. Well, I've enjoyed this. Is like, old home week, interviewing, chatting with you, not only historically, but also about where we are now in terms of our online programs. And again, I want to thank Robin Cunningham and Bob Evans for helping us organize this. But I guess, Robin, can we, I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but we can certainly answer any questions that people might have relative to our online presence here in the College of Education at Purdue. All right, we'll give people a bit of time. They're sometimes shy, right, Tim? They need the prompting and we should yeah. So
Actually, we've done such a good job of explaining. There's probably no questions.
Well, I always feel like either it's one or the other. Either we've done so well, or no one's been paying attention at all, and therefore they have nothing. So it's one or the other, right? So yeah. So looks like someone is posted a laughing, crying emoji there relative to that. So yeah. All right. Well, I think we've had enough wait time there, don't you, Tim? Relative to that. So I want to thank you in particular for taking time out and helping us make our case that we're leaders here in online education, not just here, but across the country, around the world, in terms of online education. So appreciate your commitment to that and your colleagues, and have enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Phil. I've always had, one of the reasons we got such success is because of the administrative support that we've had all the way along. In those early years, it was not always easy because we didn't have any pathway to follow.
I'll tell you one story that scared the bejeebus out of me was when we first took a look at the waterfall.
Oh,
and I thought to myself, oh my God, we're going to have to hire 150 people to staff this program.
Maren is laughing right now because she was in the middle of that.
Luckily, we figured it out, and it all worked out. But I looked at it and I thought, oh, what have we gotten ourselves into? And it turned out to be better than okay. We worked through it, and we were able to develop a model where it all worked. But man, it was a little scary there at the beginning. So all right. Well,
right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for participating, and
thanks, guys.
Take care.